So the Mishnah has spoken about lulav, lulav agazl, yavesh, asher eri dachas. Now up to the bottom of Lamed Aleph from Beis Niktam Rosha, which Niktam means like plucked off, cut off. The top of the lulav was cut off, means even the leaves. And the Gemara discusses this now. It's only a problem if it was chopped off, the top was chopped off, even a little bit. It doesn't say how much. It doesn't say how much has to be chopped off on the top. And any shear is going to be possible if you see it, if it's noticeable. But nizdak is kosher. Nizdak means that it was split. Split would mean that the leaves are split. Rashi also talks about if the shedra was split, even if the shedra was split, that between the two middle leaves, I'm not talking about the leaf which is a double leaf, and it was the one leaf was split in half. Each leaf of the lulav was a double leaf. But between the two double leaves, it was separated. And Rashi says it even went down to the shedra. Also, the shedra again is a spine. I'd like to have a picture, but I don't have available today. That everybody remembers from the lulav that it comes out of a spine. It comes out all of the leaves on the side, and then the top it comes out also on the top of the shedra comes out two leaves. And even if those two leaves were separated and the shedra itself, the spine was split, also it's kosher. The Gemara is a kasha with that because the Brisa says that nizdak is possible. Nizdak kosher, is that true that a split lulav is kosher? But Tanya, the Brisa says. The Brisa says other things also, but one of them is going to be about nizdak, lulav kafuf. Let's go on, continue on to the next page a second. Kavutz, saduk, akum domalamago, possible. All these things are possible. One we're looking at is the saduk one. That's the one we want to know. Saduk. Saduk means cracked, split, and that's going to be the kasha. Who said that saduk nizdak is kasha? Here says saduk is possible. But let's go on. Let's go back to everything else and see what it means. Kafuf, Rashi, it means that was bent. Bent, Rashi says. Kafuf, like he says, like a hunchback, that an older man that that is doubled over. The top is doubled over. Kafuf, Rashi says, means that thorns are coming out of it. Saduk is our sugya, that I mean split, and it says split is also possible. Okam domalamagyo means that it's bent in a way that it's like a sickle, very big bend. The whole lulav is bent. People sometimes in the shuk, you see that they're very conspicuous. Looking to see that it should be very particular, that it should be exactly straight. That the Gemara doesn't say. The Gemara says a problem if it's very bent, like a sickle, which is almost like a half a circle. So if the lulav is bent and a very big curve, so then it's possible. The Gemara will discuss that soon also. Chorus is possible. Don't follow chorus kosher. Chorus Rashi, I'm not sure what Rashi says exactly. The Pashup Shat chorus would be like a palm branch. That after the lulav grows big, so then it becomes a palm branch, like we know what they sell for the schach. So that's possible. Don't follow chorus kosher. If it just started becoming like that, but it's not yet dried and didn't get hardened, so then it will be kosher. Maybe that's something to do with nifridu olav. We said that if it gets very separated, maybe it is possible. But that's not our subject right now. We wanted to go back to Saduk, that it says, Afuna said that a split lulav is kosher, and here it says that it's possible. Amra Papa, that it's only possible when it's like a himnik. Rashi seems to explain that himnik is some kind of a compass, that you have like two pointers, like a pointer that you have a split. There's a picture in the Gemara usually, and here they have, let's see what they have in the Gemara. There's something like that. That it's not like a Y shape or something like that. You could have made a Y or a V. That would be the himnik. Only if it's noticeably split. So a split in the lulav is kosher, only if it's separated. You said like a V, a Y, that the lulav on the top, it splits into a noticeable split. That's what's possible. But if it just will be split, but you don't see anything, it's the wood might be split by the shedra, but still the lulav, when you look at it, you don't see that it's separated, then it'll be kosher. So we answered the kasha. Comes out that's the halacha that nizdak is kosher only when it's with himnik, only if it looks like some kind of a Y shape. So then it's possible. The Gemara goes back to explain the top line. Akum domalamaga. If it's curved like a sickle, then it's possible. Only towards the front, which means the front means when you hold the lulav, the shed is facing you. That's the spine of the lulav, and the front will mean the opposite way. The shed was like in a person. The spine is by his back. So the opposite side of the shedra, that's when if it curved away from the spine, that's when it's possible. But if it curved towards the spine, that's the normal way. It's kosher. That's a normal curve of a lulav. And even if it's normal, it sounds like a very extreme case. Even if the lulav would be very curved towards the spine, it's kosher. Then there's two versions about if it's curved to the sides. away from the spine is totally puzzle. Towards the spine is totally kosher. And to the side, some say that is puzzle, some say that is kosher. I lulav the lulav which is growing on one side. So Rashi says that all the leaves come on one side of the spine. I never saw such a lulav. I don't think we can find it. A lulav which grows with only one side of the spine are leaves coming out. So it's a balmum. The Rambam says different than Rashi. The Rambam says that the leaves usually are double leaves. The natural way that a lulav grows is that it has double leaves. If it would have only single leaves, that's what the Gemara says also, that it would be a balmum. Maybe that's also not so common to find, but the Rambam says that's found in the words that it has one leaf, not a double leaf. So we pass like all of them. If you're going to find such a lulav that has only one side of the spine or single leaves, they're possible, supposed to be double leaves. Nifitzu olav. So it's a mission nifitzu olav is possible. We didn't know what that means. We have Machlokas Rashi Tosfos. Here's the Gemara. Amra Papa nifitzu david kichofya. Nifitzu means that's like a broom. Everyone says that chofi means a broom. The question is in what aspect. So Rashi in the Mishnah, Rashi again over here says that the leaves were completely detached from the spine, and he just tied it all together like a broom. And Tosfos says that's surely possible. And he learns that nifitzu olav means that they're still attached to the shedra, but you split all the leaves. That when you want to make a broom, you don't just use the lulav as it is. Nowadays, we don't use the lulav for a broom. Once upon a time they did, but when they would want to, they wouldn't just take the lulav as is. They would split all of the double leaves. They would split them, and that's how you get the more functional broom. So that's what Tosfos learns, that even if it's not the center, which we'll see later on about the center leaves might be more sensitive, but even if you have the other leaves, if most of them are split, if it's most of the leaves were split in half, these double leaves also is possible. Nifridu. What does nifridu in the Mishnah mean? Nifridu, the ifridu day, that the leaves started separating. And we said that the lulav, when it opens up, become like a palm branch, so it starts opening up, and it's still kosher. Reviewed in the Mishnah said that he's supposed to tie it together. That we'll see that soon. The Gemara is going to continue a couple of lines to get to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that if it starts separating, you should tie it up. But the Gemara now takes a break to discuss a different issue, which probably is connected, but I don't know exactly how. What's the din of Nechlakat Yomus? What does that mean? So Rashi seems to say that it means the two center leaves, not the double leaf, but the two double leaves of the center, which Rashi says that the shed with the spine, eventually you have the whole time the spine's coming out leaves on the side, and then on the top of the shed also comes out two leaves, and that shed was over, and it ends up in two leaves. So Rashi says that those two leaves are called the tumus, and if they separated from each other, what's the halacha? Tashma, the Amar, Rabbi Yochanan, or some say Rabbi Mosan, Amar Bishop Tumus Puzzle. He said if the tumus was removed, and it's not there at all, those two leaves were taken away, so it's puzzle. And he thought that the same thing would be if it would be nechlaka. Can we assume that if he says the whole tumus is missing, it's puzzle? So too, if the tumus was separated from each other, the two leaves are separated from each other, also it's possible. But the Gemara says no, it's not a proof. Lo, nitla shani. It could be that nitla is worse if they were removed, the chasaveh, because then the lulav is missing. It's missing part of its actual lulav. But if it would all be there, all the material is there, just a split, maybe it's kosher. It's no proof to say that it's possible. That even though the Gemara in the first version did say that it's not necessarily so, but in this version, Rabbi Shubal Levi said that it's just as bad. Just like Nitat Yomus is no good if the whole tumus, the two leaves were removed as possible. So too, if it was split from each other, also it's going to be possible. Some understand that not the two leaves, like I said, Rashi, which seems to say the two leaves are split from each other. I think some do explain that it means the center leaf, that one leaf, that the double leaf, that's a center double leaf, that's called a tumus. And if it was split, it's so possible, even though the rest of the leaves, only if you can have most of the leaves are split, row of the leaves, but the center leaf is more sensitive. And over there, even if it alone was split, also is possible.
Rebbe,
yes?
I noticed, my chavrusa, I noticed in the pictures from Rav Michal, there were three shitas in the way it's split. And it seems that all of them, it's not just split a tiny bit at the top, it's split quite a ways down. So what I was wondering was split at the top. It seems like there's a shear here and the shear is substantial. What do you know about that?
I think that it says only if it's rove. Rove would be, I think the Mishnah brings down rove, some say a tefach, which also is very, very much. A tefach is very much, the whole leaf alone is about 2 tefachim till we get to the shedra. Some say only rove, which already is close to a tefach, and some say a tefach is very much. People are very careful that they don't want it to be split at all. The way the Mishnah comes out, there's no real big chumrah. It just says that people are makbid on it because from the shaking and the Meshach HaChag, it's going to open up more and more. So they try to get that it should be as close as possible. People get that it should be completely closed. I don't rely on me, but I don't know why people are so machmir. It seems that it's only a problem if it's a tefach and maybe rove, and you don't usually find that. And if it's opened up only a little bit, so if anything, just don't. If you're a big shaker, if you shake, or maybe it's ways to protect that it shouldn't shake so much. But the Mishnah Berurah seems to say, I don't remember this, I didn't see it this year, but from the past years, I think he says that the only reason people are makbid is that it shouldn't open up more.
Well, that's why we tied them.
You're saying also that it's tied, people make a ribbon.
I know that every year I tied three ties.
So you make one high enough that it shouldn't, even if you shake vigorously, it shouldn't open up more. I think that I think most people don't shake so vigorously, and I don't think it's going to open up a tepach. But as far as I know, people. Okay, but the question is how much. Okay. No, I don't think that it opens up so much. I think people, the way that we shake nowadays, I think that it doesn't. I don't think it opens up so much, especially if you have all these eitzes and you have ribbons on top. Okay, but as far as I know, it's only a problem if it's a tefach. People also careful always say niktam Moshe, if the top is cut off. So then even a little bit, it doesn't seem to say a shear over there. And has it been nicked? Is the top of the lulav been nicked? The chorus only if it's noticeable, not if it's something microscopic. You don't need a magnifying glass for that. Okay. I just want to say before I start this whole sugya that I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think most of the lulav are kosher. You just close your eyes, pick a lulav, it's going to be kosher. Maybe I'm much too lenient, but I don't understand. Like whatever the Gemara talks about, we don't have them in the shuk. It doesn't get to the shuk even. You don't have ones that are like curved like a sickle. You don't have 40 ones. You don't have split ones. You don't have branches. Yes.
I just want to mention, because I was in Torah Or 11 years, that in terms of Hidur, it was Davar Yadua that Rav Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg, the Rosh Yeshiva Zichron Livracha, went to maybe 3,000 lulavim before he picked one, and he was much more machmir on a lulav than he was on an esrog.
Okay, I have to know his reason. Like I don't know the reasoning. Why should makbid more on the hidur of the chorus only hidurim? And the pasuk says hodar by esrog. The question yesterday, makshin and lulav the esrog or not, but esrog surely has to be hodar. So why was he makbid more than a lulav? I don't know. I don't understand. I would think that all these psulim, you can't find them. They're mumim, they're blemishes. You don't find them in the. If you're in Europe over there, in times in Siberia, they couldn't get a lulav, so then they had to know all of the diktukim. But I don't see the psulim happening by us too much. But I'm not a mumch on these things. Like that, when you're checking for a lulav, don't come to me to ask if it's kosher. I don't know. But that's from the simple words of the Gemara. I don't see what the problem would be. The Gemara continues about Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda said that if it does start spreading, so you should tie it up. Tanya, and we pass like the Rabbanan, that's kosher the way it is, but maybe it's a hither to tie it up, but you don't have to, even if it started spreading out. Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Misham Abtarfin, Kapos Tomorrow, Kapos, and how you call Yichfetenu. Yesterday, the Gemara thought that it was because of Hodor, but the Gemara said no, it's because of this reason. That it says, the fact that it says Kapos, which means like a palm branch, but Drash is going to say Kapos, that it should be tied up. So if it starts spreading out, so you should tie it up, that it should be bound.
So we actually tried before it even started.
We don't have a porud. Our lulav are not freedom. Freedom means that it started opening up. You're not going to get that in the shuk. Or if it got to the shuk, you're not going to pick it. You just pick it up.
Like not really. It's not really. It's not a chiyuv. It's
what we do. What would we do? The reason that they put the ribbons on.
No, I'm saying I do.
Tabot. You make tabot. So I don't know what it's about. What are the
I guess it's a shmira.
That it shouldn't be.
It should open up of its own.
It's not going to open up on its own. It doesn't. This is only when it's growing that it starts spreading out.
Like running before Yom Tov.
I don't know. I don't know why. If anybody knows about the tabaot, people make 3 tabaot. Avram Yitzchak and Yaakov. I don't know. Tom Levi Yisrael. I'm not sure. I'm not Mizalza. I just don't know what I do. It also. I don't know what it is.
Oh, you did.
I don't know what it is. Okay. Omar lay Ravina l'Ravashi. You might not the Gemara as a side point. How do you know that a kapos tomorim is a lulav? The pasuk says creates other kapos tomorim and afetzavos avenochnal. The Targum Okla says lulavim asrogim. He says asrogim lulavim adasim arov. But the pasuk doesn't say that. So the Gemara wants to know the drash. How do you know? So of course Tarsha Balpeh, Moshe ben Akim Nach Marsina. He said creates other esrog kapos tomorim lulav. But how do you see that in the pasuk? We're going to see in the words how do you figure out on our own the hint in the psukim that kapos tomorim is the lulav. Who says that it's a lulav? Ein macharusa. So I would say that the one maybe it's a palm branch, a full-grown palm branch. The answer is the ina kafos v'leka. One with the drash. We just said Abuda's drash. We pass him not like Abuda, but it seems for this point we do pass him like him that we go with his drasha that is supposed to be bound. So the charusa cannot be bound. It's so open up completely, and you can't bind it together anymore. Like a regular palm branch, if you bind it together, it doesn't help.
What's Harusa mean?
Harusa, I think, means a palm branch. Once there's a fully grown palm branch. What we call dekel. I'd say dekel. Rashi doesn't say that exactly, but the way Rashi describes it, I don't understand how it fits with what we have, what we know as a palm tree, so I don't know how to explain Rashi. The more skash, maybe it's a piece of wood. The wood itself.
I have the word here, hardened. Hardened something.
That's what Rashi seems to say.
Hardened toast. I don't want to read what I wrote.
The aim of Rashi, the Ufsa seems to mean a piece of wood, which would mean that after the lulav fell off and you have a branch of a hard piece of wood, and it's not something which spread out, it's just a single piece of wood. The answer is kafos machal the ikapor. Since the pasuk says kafos, which we dashin from there, that if it spreads out, you should bind it together. That means that it's something which is possible to spread out, and if it does, you should bind it together. But the upsa is one solid piece; it doesn't spread out at all. So that's not what the pasuk is talking about. The kafos lomi. This thing is permanently bound because it doesn't spread out at all. The aim of kufra. Kufra. Rashi seems to say that's something in between. That is something in between the stage of a lulav and later on when it gets spread out, starts opening up and becomes a charusa. Maybe that's the stage that is going to be what the Torah wants you to take up as tomorrow. The pasuk says that the Torah are pleasant and peaceful, and therefore it can't mean kufr. Rashi says because this thing would be poking, scratching. That this middle stage, the lulav, it's all compact. It doesn't poke anybody. Only if you go to the top of the lulav. But this thing that started opening up, so then it'll scratch and poke. And the Torah didn't mean to say take something which is going to be so an annoyance. Rashi says that maybe it means the clusters of dates on the palm tree. Besides the palm leaves, also you have the actual dates, and they grow in clusters. So maybe kapos tomorrow means to take 2 clusters of dates. The answer is kapos because it says without above, which would mean only one. So you can't take 2 clusters. If anything, it's going to be 1 cluster. Okay, take 1 cluster. Take 1 cluster. That's called not kapos. That's called kaf. 1 cluster of dates is called the kaf. So also doesn't fit into the pasuk. So the pasuk didn't mean that. So all this Gemara was just to figure out in the pshat level. How do you know without Torah Shebal Pet? Figure out that kapos tomorrow means the lulav. It must mean not a harusa and not a ufsa, not a kufra and not a kapos tomorrow. Not a kapit the tamri and not 2 and not 1, so it must mean a lulav. And Torah Shebal
The word kaf again means how's it right shot to be actually lulav?
The Gemara uses the drasha that it means something about binding together, like kafus. Kafus means to be bound up. So the fact that it's something which could spread out in a way that you should bind it up, if it does. So that shows that it's a lulav which could spread out a little bit, and still it's possible to bind it. I'm a little bit surprised because we don't pass like Rabbi Yehuda. This thing about binding it up, we pass like the Rabbanan that is kosher. Maybe it's a hiddur to bind it up. You don't have to. And still, as far as defining what is kapos tomorrow, we do use Rabbi Yehuda's drasha. And again, this is like extra credit, even if we wouldn't be able to figure it out. We have Torah Shebal Peh that says kapos tomorrow is a lulav. But the Gemara is figuring out in the words alone, you can see that it means a lulav and not other parts of the palm tree. The Mishnah continues. Sine Har Barzel Sheva. We said that Rashi told us that it means some kind. The word sine means the column, palm trees, Har Barzel, and they grow with very scarce leaves. They don't have any leaves. Amar Abaye, Lo Shanu V'Lo Shemoshe Shel Zeh Magil Tzadik Shel Zeh, Avalein Moshe Shel Zeh Magil Tzadik Shel Zeh Pasol. Leaves have to at least overlap. On our lulavim, they're very, very overlap. They're very, very many leaves, and they overlap by a lot. Most of it.
Picture of the tzini, the one that's.
I don't know. They're going to make, like I said, a virtual picture. They're going to take out They're going to take out 5 leaves in between and show you. They didn't find such a thing. So I don't think that they know where to find such a.
Yeah, even though it's sparse of leaves, it's still kosher.
They made a picture here, but I don't think the bottom picture, bottom left. But I don't think that they found that. They just made it. But anyway, it says here that leaves have to at least be overlapping. If leaves don't overlap at all, then it's going to be possible. But as long as they overlap a little bit, even though you don't have many leaves, it's not very full of leaves. They're still kosher as long as they overlap. Tanya Nami Yachi, we learned one of Brisa, like Abaye said, Sini Arbasal Psula, doesn't say the whole thing of Abai, it just says that it's possible, but the Mishnah says that it's kosher. It must be Abai's right. That it's only part that if it doesn't overlap at all, then it is possible.
Similar with the myrtles, with the hadassim, that they have to reach each other.
I don't know. We'll see today. We'll see today. It doesn't say mamish the way you said it, but we'll see the bottom of the page talks about
I
that.
think it was maybe a hitter, but I remember looking at one as the factor that they have to touch
Yeah.
where the
overlap.
roots of the next triplet are, the
Has to
three-
go.
three.
I don't know that to be, but that would be interesting. The top of the bottom of the base, some have the same thing as Abai just said, but they have a version that it was said as the Kasha with the terrace. Before Abai said it on his own, and then Warda supported him by saying that there's a brisa which says that it's possible, and that's to support Abai's pshat. But here Abai said it to answer the Kasha. Tanan, Sini Arbazal kosher, but Tanya puzzle, that the mission says that it's kosher, the brisa says that it's puzzle, and then Abai came to answer. Abai lo Kasha. Kansha Rosh Shazam Magil Sadik Shalzeh, Kansha Eni Rosh Shazam Magil Sadik Shalzeh. That is kosher only if it overlaps, that at least the top of one reaches the bottom of the one on top of it, but if it doesn't, then it's possible. So we finished about Sini Harabaza. If anybody has such a thing, it'd be nice to see one, but I don't think that it exists in our culture and in our trees. But if it does, it won't get into the shuk anyway, even if it overlaps. I'm Rav Marion, I'm Rav Shubal Leitiv, I'm Rav Tani Rabba Bar Mori Mishum Rabbi Yocham Mazaka. State tomorrow, Sayesh Begay Ben Inom, Ol Oshin Mibinehem. There are two palm trees in Gay Ben Inom, which is right here, close to Yerushalayim. And there's I don't know what the two palm trees are, but the Gay Ben Inom is here. But it says in the pasuk in Yeshua that Gay Ben Inom is the border between Yehuda and Binyamin. Gay Ben Inom. So there are two palm trees over there, and smoke rises from between them. Those palm trees, they have very scarce leaves, and that's the Sini Harbaz I'm referring to. It's a gay, it's not a har, it's a gay Ben Inom, it's a valley of Ben Inom. But those are the Sini Harbaz, and that's where you'll find those kind of lulavim. It's not there anymore. This is the entrance to Gehenim. That's where the smoke is coming out over there.
Wow.
Yeah, right here, right down here. Gay Ben Inom, it's right here. It's a 5-minute walk. There's a valley, but I don't know anything about. I don't know. There may be some stories about it. Maybe there's some kind of Masorah, traditional stories about Gay Ben Inom, but I don't know. There's no. They don't see the smoke anymore. The Bismah Shal Gehenim means it seems to be some kind of Gehenim that's also in this earth, in the world, besides something heavenly about Gehinom. But there's something more talks about the Ben Eden and Gehenim could be in this world also. Okay, that was a side point about Tzini Harbaz. Also brought in something about Gay Ben Inom. Anybody familiar with Gay Inom?
What do you mean? What it looks like? They keep away from them.
No, I think that's where they make the concert.
The stadium.
That's the stadium.
I hope I've seen all of mine in this world and I don't have any more left.
The Mishnah continues. The rest of the Sugya now talks about the size, the minimum size of a lulav, and it's also going to talk about Dasman Arabas already, even though the Mishnah doesn't say how long about Dasman Arabas. I don't think the Mishnah is going to say how big they have to be. Here's the Gemara. Lulav sheish v'shloshet tfachim. So the simple reading of the Mishnah says that lulav has to be 3 tfachim, kedei l'naneya, in order to shake. But it says the shear is 3 tfachim. But the Gemara starts, Am Rav Yudah Mashmuel, shear adas v'rava shlosha, the lulav arba, kedei she lulav yosem min adas tefach. That the minimum size of Hadassah and Arabas is 3 tefachim, and the lulav is 4 tefachim. In order that the lulav should go out of the Hadassah and tefach, it should be a tefach higher. Rashi says here something that the Gemara doesn't seem to say. I'm not sure why Rashi says it, and it might even be different than the Gemara. Rashi says that since the lulav is the biggest of all of the Daled minim, so also it should be higher also. It's naturally bigger, so also it should be higher. Rashi says, Kishem, here's Rashi. Can I get it? I can't get it on here. Kishem, shehu gavor b'mino mikula. Just like it's inherently bigger, so too it should be higher and it should be sticking out. So make the lulav that it should stick out of the hadas and 1 tefach more. The Gemara is going to say something else about kedei l'naneya. Rashi so far just said that it's inherently bigger, so make it also that it should be taller. The Gemara continues that a shear of hadas v'rav is 3 tefachim and the lulav is 4 tefachim. I'm sorry? Yes, and now it says that the same Bamino said also should be taller. It should be sticking out higher. Yes, yes, but you could have made it that it's lower down. You could lower it down. It says no, they should make it higher. You could hold the lulav lower than the hadassah. No, you want it to be taller. It should be higher. That's what she says. So here he says that the Gemara is going to say something about the nanuim, but so far it says that hadassah and the rubbish is 3 tefachim, the lulav is 4, in order that the lulav should protrude from the hadassah with tefach more. That was Shmuel. Parnacham Rabbi Yochanan, Shidro Shalul, so she gets him out of that. Who's our Parnach? Here he is. Rabbi Parnach. I think we had him before also. Shidro Shalul, so Shidro. The emphasis is on the word Shedra. As you know, the lulav has a Shedra, and then the leaves go even higher. And the point is, when you say the shir is 4 tefachim, does it mean including the leaves or only the Shedra alone besides the leaves? So Shmuel said that the whole lulav, including the leaves, is 4 tefachim. And if Yochanan is machram, he says the Shedra alone is 4 tefachim, and the leaves are even higher than that. Shedra shalul that the Shedra alone should protrude out of the dasim tefach, and then the leaves go even higher than that. So it comes out according to Yochanan, the shir of lulav is bigger than that of than Shmuel said. In past like Yochanan, that is going to be the Shedra alone has to be 4 tefachim. Most of them are much bigger, but you don't have to get a huge lulav as long as the Shedra is 4 tefachim, it's kosher. Shedra, yeah, Tanan. We had a Mishnah. The Mishnah says 3 tefachim. Everybody's saying 4 tefachim. The leaves, the Shedra. The Mishnah says 3 tefachim. The lulav says Bagimul tefachim Deilan and Nebo kosher. So you're saying 4 tefachim. The Mishnah says 3 tefachim. Ema Uchadeilan and Nebo. So put in the vav. Yeah, right before the word Kedei, put in the vav over here. Ukadei. That it should be 3 tefachim plus Kedeilan and Nebo. That sounds like the extra tefach is Kedeilan and Nebo. So Rashi said that the point is that it should be higher, but maybe it's not a contradiction. But the Gemara says the reason why it should be protruding one more tefach is because you should be able to shake. What does shaking mean? L'chora, I don't know. The chora means shaking, that the leaves should shake. When we move the lulav, many people don't shake at all. They just point the lulav to all the directions, but they don't shake. But it does talk about the Rishon Rishonim says to do kiskus allen. You're supposed to make that the lulav, some wrist action over there that leaves should shake. And that's why they say that even if it's split a little bit on the top, the 2 leaves are split, that maybe it's going to open up more because of all the vigorous shaking. So there is shaking. And here, maybe that's found in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, that it has to be some room out of above the Adasim, it's all bound together, so they're not able to shake the leaves. But if it protrudes, either a tefach of the leaves or the Shedra plus the leaves, then you'll have more room that it should shake. So I think that's what the Gemara seems to say, but I recall that not everybody agrees to this thing that you have to shake the leaves. The Gemara here seems to say that you have to do it in a way that the leaves should be able to shake.
Where
Okay.
does it bring the idea of naneh? Is that brought only in Torah Shebechutei Ba'al-Pei, or is it also?
It doesn't say in the Torah anything about
Doesn't say
Nanua.
about
It doesn't
Nanua.
say. There is a pasuk, I think, in Divrei Yamin that talks about different instruments. Over there, talks about Menanaim. It sells a little Menanaim, and they say the Midrash says that it's talking about a lulav over there. That not as a mitzvah of lulav, but as a percussion instrument. They use the lulav, and that was used to shake. It was used to shake. Yeah, they have already artificial, but they take a lulav. They would take lulav, but that kind of percussion instrument. There, that's called Menanaim. But this word is used in Torah Shabbat. It's supposed to be Menanea. We'll see later on. But here, I'm just saying that the word Nanua sounds here that you're actually shaking it in a way that the leaves should shake, and therefore it should be protruding out of the Adasim or Tefach. Either the leaves of Tefach or the Shedra Tefach plus the leaves that go after them. But even though the Mishnah simply would have read that it's 3 Tefachim, but the Gemara is saying it means Ukadei Lananea, add on above, and it means altogether 4 Tefachim. Mark it this way, according to Shmuel, according to Rabbi Yochanan, either the leaves come out of Tefach or the Shedra comes out of Tefach plus the leaves. Tashma. Shiva das v'lurava shlosha v'lurava. My la bad yalan. The Brisa seems to say word for word what Shmuel said, that the lulav, the hadas and ravav is 3 tefachim, the lulav is 4, which Shmuel said this before, and it means that the leaves alone, not the shedra, the leaves alone, the total size of the lulav is 4 tefachim. Isn't that a raya to Shmuel against Rabbi Yochanan? My la bad yalan. But the Moshe is not impressed. No, the bad yalan. The Brisa, even though it says lulav is 4 tefachim, it could mean that the shedra alone is 4 tefachim, but you still have to have the leaves should go even higher than that. We paskin like Rabbi Yochanan that the Shedra should be 4 tefachim. So even though usually it's not an issue, but the Shedra has to be at least 4 tefachim. Gufa. We learned earlier about the Shira of the Hadasim and Aravos. Shira Hadas Aravos Shlosha V'Lulav Arba, which is what we paskin, and we said Lulav Arba means the Shedra is 4, but the Hadas and Aravos should be 3 tefachim. Not a Mishnah. It seems to be a Gemara, a Brisa. Tarfon says an Amma, a 5 tefachim Amma. So the Gemara thought in the beginning that it means that he's coming to argue on the Shir Adasim and Aravos. He says it has to be 5 tefachim. That the Adasim and Aravos have to be not 3 tefachim, it has to be 5 tefachim. And Rav said it can't be. Hashem should be mochalim. Hashta Abba Shlosha Lama Shechina Bas Chamisha Miboya. We can't even find 3 Tvachim Adasim. That it should be kosher. It means in a way that it's going to be triple leaves. We'll see soon that Adnaf Eitz Avos means that Adasim are supposed to be triple leaves. So it's hard to find even 3 Tvachim. And we're going to find now 5 Tvachim. It can't be. That Hashem wants us to get 5 Tvachim Adasim. It's not available. But then the Gemara explains that Rav Tarfon didn't mean that. Kesser Avdim Yamar Ama Bas Shisha Tvachim Maseh Osar Bas Chamisha. Say Mehen Shlosh Ladas Vashar Lulov Kamevalu Tlosa Tlosa Chumshi. That he didn't mean to say 5 Tvachim. He means to say 3 Tvachim, but three big Tvachim. It means that sometimes an Amma is measured by 6 Tvachim, sometimes an Amma is measured by 5 Tvachim. So he's saying take a 6 Tvachim Amma and divide it into 5. So it comes that each one is a 1 1/5, and take 3 of those Tvachim for the Hadassim. So again, Hadassim after this has to be 3 Tvachim, but 3 big Tvachim. So it comes out that it's not going to be 3 Tvachim, it's going to be 3 3/5. Like the Gemara says, take an Amma of 6 Tvachim and make it into 5. Each one is 1 1/5. Each Tvach is 1 1/5. And take 3 of those for the Hadas, and the rest for the Lulav, which is going to mean the Lulav will be 4 4/5. How much is it? 3 3/5. That's all he meant to say. He also agrees that it's not 5 Tvachim, but it's 3 3/5. But the Gemara says, Kasha the Shmuel, if so, we have a contradiction between Shmuel. Yeah, Shmuel said the share is 3. Someplace else, Shmuel is quoted by Rav Huna saying that which means 3 3/5. What does he hold? How big does the das have to be? 3 or 3 3/5? The one tries low duck. That he wasn't accurate. He just rounded it off. He said 3. Really has to be 3 3/5. But the mother doesn't like that. Low duck. We only say to round it off and not to be accurate. If you want to be makro a little bit, like low duck, are you going to round it off and say that you only need is 3? You need 3 3/5. So that's not good. If Shmuel really passed in 3 3/5, he shouldn't have said 3. That would be a contradiction with Shmuel. Rabban has a different pshat to explain, and then the conscience is going to go down. The opposite. He's coming to be Mekel and say, take a 5 Tvachim Amma and make it into 6. Now it's going to go down. Now each tefach is going to be less than a tefach because you're taking a 6 Tvachim Amma, a 5 Tvachim Amma, and dividing it into 6. And now we're going to say half of that is going to be used for the Hadas because 3 Tvachim out of 6. So take a 5 Tvachim Amma and take half of that, which is only 2.5. Same way in Shlosh Hadas Vashal Lulav Kamevalu Trei Palga. So he says that you don't have to have a full 3 Tvachim for Hadasim. It's good enough to Hadasim and Avravos. It's enough to have half of that, half of 5, which is 2.5. So 2.5 is good enough. But the Gemara says still it's Kasha and Shmuel. So Kasha the Shmuel because before he said 3, and here he says 2.5. Low dog. Then now it's okay. He rounded it off. I know the Chumah low dog. Shmuel, Allah Rabbi Tarfon. Really 2.5 is good. But he said take 3. But Enechnami 2.5 is also good. And that's the halacha. I mean, really, Achatchila says try to get 3 Tvachim. But with the Eved, if you took 2.5 Tvachim, we could be somewhat on Shmuel that passed like Rabbi Tarfon that 2.5 is good enough also. So when you get Hadasim and Aravos, 3 Tvachim, and each tefach is Chaznish will say 10 centimeters, a big chumrah, or at least 8 centimeter. So 24 centimeter for the Hadasim and the Aravos.
But our Tasman Rubber is
Much bigger. Okay.
What's that translated to inches?
I don't know anymore. But they sell it.
4 inches the tefach according to our Moshe. 4 inches.
Okay. Yeah, when they sell it in the stores, the very prepack is usually ready, and it says Shir Chazanish and this, and usually it says very how big it is. Okay, so what do we come out so far? That Lulav is 4 Tvachim, and we pass in the Shedra alone. The Shedra alone should be 4 Tvachim, but that's when it was 3 Tvachim. But the other 2.5 Tvachim is also good enough. Mishnah.
This is an Am is 2 feet, 24 inches. How many Tvachim are in an Am?
Yeah, we have these converters. We can see right away how much is. If you want to, they have in the phone now. They have the converters from inches. But everything you go to the market now, you ask inches, they're not going to know what you're saying. So you have to take your centimeter ruler. The package says already Shir Chazanish. Usually it says Shir Chazanish on it. It tells what it is. The Chazanish says,
right?
yes. The Mishnah says, now going to that. Chaim does good. Chaim does good. It's kosher. Chazanish is a chumrah, and it's coming to answer conscious. We spoke about it a couple of times.
I know it's not reformed.
There are many. Okay, the Chazanish was coming to answer conscious, but the Masorah for many generations was like Chaim.
So Gimel Tefachim is 24 centimeters and not 30?
Yeah, they want to be machmer, so they machmer like the Chazon Ish, and then they say tafach is 10 centimeters, so I'll get 30. And the packaging is going to say usually Shir Chazon Ish. I never saw a package that said Shir of Chaim though. They're going to say. They're going to. It does have relevance also because you want sometimes you see that they're not tripled. The leaves they're not tripled, even though sometimes they're pre-checked, but not always are they accurate. So you have to know that it's kosher if it's not the Shir Chazon Ish also. Okay, the Mishnah and let's say the lulav is going to be 4 tefachim, 32, a little bit more than a balata, and Chazon Ish will say 40 centimeters for the shedra alone. The Mishnah continues with Hadas. We finished all about lulav. The first Mishnah lulav, Agaz Yavish. Now we go on to Hadas, and very similar. Hadas, Agaz Yavish, Pasal, Shoashev, Sheli Nidachas Pasal, Niktar Motion. If it's a wall, everything is Pasal, same as before. If it's stolen, the same thing as before. If it was on the second day is Missile Rabba Vera, tomorrow we'll discuss the same thing as before. Yavish, we said in Paskin that Yavish is Pasal even on the rest of Yantif also because it's not Hodar. Shalashev Shali Dachas, we says that it's Ksusim Mechtashura, it's considered burnt, and therefore it's not a shear, so it's possible. Niktan Rosho, again, here the Mishnah Berurah says Niktan Rosho doesn't mean the Ramah. Not the leaf. The leaf here, Niktan Rosho is not a problem, but a lulav, Niktan Rosho is even on the leaf. But on the Hadassim and the Rava, Hadassim is only going to be on the stem. But if the top leaf is nicked or something, it's not worse than any other leaf. Niktan Rosho of the Hadassim and the Rava is not the leaf, it's the stem. Nifritzu olav. So here Rashi again, Nifritzu olav Shash says that the leaves are torn off. The leaves are torn off the stem, so it's possible. That's the hard pshita. Oh, Shali Onava V'Mubas Me'olav possible. So this is a new thing that we don't see in the market too much because they don't bring them with the berries. But if you go to the field, you'll see that sometimes there are berries growing on the Hadassim. So it says if there are more berries than leaves, it's also possible. If you have less berries, if you have some berries, but more leaves than berries, it's okay. But if you have more berries than leaves, then it's possible. But you can take it off. You can take off the berries and then it's kosher. But don't take it off on Yantif because it's tikkun mana. It's like fixing it up. It's making it kosher. So you're not allowed to make it kosher on Yantif. Of course, if you have a grape cluster, you're allowed to take off the grapes off the cluster on Shabbos. It's not attached to the tree. So you can take off, if you want to eat the berries, you can eat the berries of these hadassim. But if you want to make it kosher, so then it's tikkun mana. You're fixing it up, so then you're not allowed to do it on Yantif. Tanu Rabbanan. Here the Gemara is going to discuss how do you know that anafei tzavos means Hadassim. Again, the same thing as by lulav. It says kapos tamam. Who says it means a lulav? So we had a discussion. Here the Brisa discusses how do you know that anafei tzavos means a hadas. The word anaf means a branch, eitz, wood, avos, how we grade it kind of thing. Don't think so. I don't think the Gemara is saying that means sticks. I think the Gemara is saying avos is more like avosim, like it says avoso, shar shiros, like it says by in Parashas Truma, by the Big Dekuna. I don't think that it means stick over here. Shanafa chofin esay. So it's supposed to be that anafa usually means branches. Here Rashi says it means leaves. That the leaves are covering the wood. So the leaves of the hadassim they cover the wood. So it's coming to tell you that this is the kind of branch we're talking about. But I don't think Chaim David said that it means that it has to be overlapping and you shouldn't see the wood.
You know why? That's why. If you don't reach the next leaf,
right? So
then the wood will be removed.
Right. So I don't think so. I don't think I have to see an halacha, but I don't think that. Just telling you, we're talking about myrtle branches, but it's not coming to say that it's only kosher if it overlaps and you don't see the wood at all. So I don't recall such a Gemara. I'd like to see it if they do talk about it. But yeah, it's just coming to define that an afit savos is the myrtle branch. How do you know? Because it has to be such a kind of a branch that the leaves cover the wood. That's a myrtle branch. The Gemara says there are other trees also like that. Olive tree also, the leaves also are covering the branch. But the Gemara says that the inan avos for like that. The Gemara says, as the Rashi says, that the Gemara is going to say soon that it means that you have to have 3 coming out on each level. And the zaysim, the olive trees, even though the leaves are very, 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 very many leaves that cover the branch, but and they don't mamish cover the branch either. By the zaysim, they don't cover the branch. They're pretty scarce compared to hadassim. But that the Gemara said that wouldn't be a problem. But it's not avos. Avos means that they grow at three on the same level. The Gemara says Zayim Adulva. Rashi says
that's where the word Abbas comes from fathers, from 3 Abbas.
No. There's an ayin over here, not an ayin.
What is it? Braided. This means a braid.
The first white line, Emadulva. Rashi says Adulva is a chestnut. I'm not familiar if anybody knows chestnut trees. Also, the leaves over there seem to be similar, and they might think it should be kosher. So it is true that they have maybe others. They have 3 on a level. If anybody knows about that, please bring it in or show it on the screen. But the Gemara is saying, but they're not so many. They don't cover the wood. The Ema Hirduf, so I don't know what that is, but that's a kind of a branch that meets all the requirements, and it's very similar to Hadassim that it has maybe 3 on a row, and also it covers the wood. Rabaya, the Rechel Dachanim Leka, that we said before also that the ways of the Torah are pleasant, and this is not pleasant. Why is it not pleasant? Maybe also it has thorns over there. What does Rashi say? Rashi says that it'll scratch, it'll poke. The leaves are sharp, and that wouldn't be pleasant. You get poked up.
This is the Yiduf.
Yes. Rav Amar Meyocha,
So you have a translation for
no,
this?
I don't have. Rav Amar Meyocha, if anybody has a translation, I'll scroll. Anybody here? Anybody? We can look into it. And the Gemara says, Rav Amar, second wide line, Meyocha, a different source that is possible. Yeah, but he's not saying what it is. He just tells you how it looks. It meets the requirements of the leaves over here. Besides the fact that it's pokes, but which plant is it called? Which tree is that? So I don't know. Any art scroll available? Did they say any shot? I have one here. Take a second, see if there's anything. We're on daf. Oh, maybe I missed it. No, the next volume already. I have to get the next volume. Okay. Next, the Gemara continues. MS Pashalom. Rashi says that it's poison. That this thing here is a poison. So therefore, not Mr. Bed that the Torah said we should take that for the Hadassim. So we're left with the process of elimination. We got to Hadassim. Also, back there to say again that of course when Moshe Rabbeinu came down, he said in Afet Tzavos, he said that means Hadassim. But the more trying to see in the word, how would we be able to figure out on our own? What's Hadas? That is braided and it looks like a chain. Now that I think it's only after the fact. If you know that it's Hadas, then you can see a similarity. But if you go to the botanical garden and tell them I need something that's braided and looks like a chain, I don't know if you get Hadas. But the one saying that's what we mean. And Nafet Tzavos means that it's full of leaves like the myrtle branch. It should be a kind of a tree that the taste of the wood and the fruit, the berries, are similar. I don't see how the Gemara sees that in the words. The Nafet Tzavos. How do you see that? How do you see that? How do you see that on the word that it's supposed to be kind of a tree that the branch and the wood branch tastes similar taste to the fruit? I don't know. That's how we know that it's referring to Adas. Tana, it's only kosher if it's braided, and if it's not, it's possible. What does braided mean? 3 leaves on a kina. So Rashi says kina means the root, so to speak, where it comes out of. That's not a good word. Okitz. That it comes out of the same source. The 3 leaves come out of the same source. On each level, they come out of the same source. I think that poskim say that's good enough, even if they come out of 3 different sources, but it's all the same level. It's on the same level, 3 at a time. But if it doesn't come out 3 at a time, 3 on the same level, so it's not a kosher adas. Even if you have 2 and 1. Rashi says that 2 and 1 is a bit lower, but the one that's lower also, it still overlaps. Here Rashi says that it overlaps, that it dries on the top 2, but it's also considered a triple level. Ravacha braid the Rava Mahadra trade b'chad hold nothing with the Afghan. Since Afghan said that it's kosher, even though it's not dafka 2 and 1, 3 is surely good. But since he said that 2 and 1 is also kosher, so he tried dafka to get 2 and 1 to show that the law is like Afghana that says that 2 and 1 is also kosher. But my father Amemar would call that a hadashota. And I think they were supposed to say that we hold that as possible. That 2 and 1 is not good. It's supposed to be dafka 3 on the same level. That's the end of the Gemara. That's the end of today's Gemara. What did we learn? Just to go back a second. We started with Nizdak. We had the Psulim about a lulav. We said Nizdak is kosher only if it's separated in a way like a himnik. Otherwise, the other thing that it says there is about if it's bent over and if it's curved, if it's thorny. The Gemara talked about even if it's curved, it's only curved if it's curved towards the away from the spine. If it's towards the spine, it's kosher. To the sides of the focus, also we're going to pass that it's also possible. Only curved towards the spine is kosher. If it only has leaves on one side of the lulav, it's possible. If you find such a thing, and also the Rambam says if they're not double leaves, it's also possible. If it's a walla, like a broom, Rashi says if the leaves are completely detached, Rashi says even if it's not, but if all the leaves over the leaves are split, also it's possible. If the walla is kosher, purpose Rav Yehuda says you should still bind it together. The Gemara talked about nechlakat yomis, which Rashi seems to say that the 2 middle leaves are separated from each other, and even the shedra is a split over there. So the Gemara says nechlakat yomis is possible. Machlokes, 2 versions if it's possible or not. Nitlat yomis, if the whole thing is missing, surely it's possible. But if it's separated from each other, then machlokes we seem to say also that it's possible. Some of Farshim say that means that the double leaf is split. Also possible. How much? Some say rove, some say a tefach. After that, the Gemara brought a drasha to know how do you know that a kapos tamarim means a lulav, and they said all the other possibilities that don't fit, and we're left with a lulav, and we know that also from Tosha Bopeh. It's in the Arbazel. If you have scarce leaves, it's kosher as long as they overlap, and if they don't overlap, then it's possible. And the next Gemara spoke about also the Agarata about Kei Benny, no? And then the Gemara spoke about the shear of a lulav and Hadasim and Aravos, 3 tvachim for Hadasim and Aravos, 4 tvachim for the lulav, that it should be protruding 1 tefach more. Machlokas, it means the leaves or even the shedra. You pass like a Yochanan that the shedra alone should be a tefach above the Hadasim, and comes out to the shear of the lulav is 4 tvachim of the shedra alone. The Reb Tarfon is Meko. Some said that he's machmer, some said it means 5 tvachim of Hadasim, some said no, it doesn't mean that, it means only 3 3/5. Others say no, on the contrary, so kula 2.5 is good enough, and b'diavad the post can say b'diavad 2.5 tvachim is also good enough for the Hadasim and Baravos. The Gemara continues about the Hadasim, same as before, Kozol, Yavesh, Asher, Nidachas, Niktam, Nifritz, so everything is possible. He said Nifritz, Niktam, Moshe of the Hadasim and Baravos is only the stem, not the wood, but not about the leaves. The leaves on the top is not Muhammad than the leaves on the rest of the Hadasim and Aravos. About the berries, we'll see that Iran talks about that if there are more berries than leaves, then it's possible, but you can take it off, not on Yom Tov. The rest of the Gemara was to discuss how do you know that an Afis Avos means Hadasim in the Pshat level. How could you figure out from the Psukim? And we said possible elimination. It can't be anything else. It has to be Avos, or say so. It has to be covering the wood and triple, and that comes to be Hadas. Also, on Eitzetam Eitzah Shava, there was another.
Rebbe,
yes, please.
you asked very good. Rev Michal brings an answer to your kasha. You were right. Kasav haritva she'ein gorsim kain shahare b'pasuk nemar anafetz below whose kar pri klau ubedivrei harif hayagirsa tam anafav va'etzav shava. Nothing about the pri. And the Rishash says pirash shedaresh anaf Kamoshin Emar Anav with a base on the end, because the pay and the base are mitchalfim, like the Aravim, you know.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So that would be a different guess. And instead of Tam Eitzo period, Tam Eitzo Ba'anafav Shabbat. Very nice. Eshikol. Thank you very much. I didn't know that. And the last Gemara talks about if you have to have 3 on the same level or 2 and 1 is good enough. And she says even if it's 2 and 1, it has to be that the 1 starts lower and goes higher and there's more kav on the other 2. And if kind of know that it's kosher, it sounds like Amir holds that it's possible. It's called Hadashota. We had the Gemara before that also on that few days that it said Hadashota L'Sukkah. That use that for schach, don't use that for the lulav. So we've held that Hadashota is not good. It's supposed to be that the 3 leaves of each level they should be on the same level. On the Hadastim, you should have levels of 3 together.
So the 2 and 1 doesn't work.
I think so, right? It's not
okay,
kosher. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, Yashikar, everybody. We'll be back in about 10 minutes to continue with Pirkei Avos. Yashikar.